Hey guys, what's going on? This is your boy RJ Game News USA here, and today we're going to look at the review scores for Beast of Reincarnation. Now, I gotta say, this game was somewhat on my radar because, it was made from Game Freak, the same people who make Pokemon. A lot of people were really excited because it looked really, really nice compared to what Pokemon usually looks like. And I was possibly willing to give this game a chance if reviews knocked my socks off. Sadly, that did not occur. It got a 73 overall on Metacritic. It's lower than a lot of the Switch 2 games that I buy. 30 positive reviews, 25 mixed, and actually 0 negative, which is impressive for having 25 mixed but no negative reviews. Even Splatoon Raiders, which had a much better Metacritic than this game, had a negative review or two with that. So, kind of an odd situation. And we're going to go over the review scores today from top to bottom. So, if you like this kind of content, like, share, and sub. Let me jump into it. No perfect scores. Good. I'm tired of games I'm confused why they're getting a perfect score, just randomly getting a perfect score. The high score belongs to Vice, giving it a 95, saying Beast combat isn't just innovative, it's incredibly fun. Its mix of real-time combat and turn-based action is a perfect blend. Are we sure? Are we sure? 'Cause I think Xenoblade has dibs on that moniker, if you ask me. Games Radar Plus gave it a 90, saying Beast of Reincarnation is a great ARPG with firm but fair combat and wide scope for crafting a build to your taste. Surprisingly, perhaps, it also has a deep and thoughtful story that it thrusts you to dig yourself into. So, yeah, this is definitely a minority opinion as we go forward. And this is also the last review that was a 9 or higher. Miu PlayStation with an 89 says Beast delivers a compelling action-adventure driven by an intriguing narrative, responsive combat, and a rewarding exploration system that consistently encourages players to venture off the beaten path. Character progression is tightly woven into exploration, while the game's atmosphere reinforces the mystery surrounding Emma's journey alongside her companion Co. Alright, sounds like they're very positive on the game. Still very positive so far. Tierra Gamer with an 86, saying Beast of Reincarnation stands out as a surprisingly strong title from Game Freak, delivering challenging combat, rewarding progression, and an enduring protagonist duo. Although its narrative can feel convoluted and some boss encounters overstay their welcome, its dark world, imposing enemies, and the compelling bond between Emma and Co. make it worthwhile. Now, we do have a bunch of 85s. We have an 85 from CG Magazine, Gamer Heroes, Indigo Geek, PSX Brazil, XGN, Gaming Trend, and PlayStation Universe. On the Gaming Trend review of an 85, they said, while no masterpiece, Beast of Reincarnation, engaging combat and bond-based core render it an endearing debut from a storied publisher. Check it out if you're in the market for something different. Different sometimes is good. I don't think you're getting a number 2, though. I don't know if this is going to sell well. We'll see. Video Chums with an 83, saying Beast of Reincarnation has a lot going for it with its distinct game world, clever traversal abilities, and challenging combat that'll thoroughly test your ability to parry. That's all I need to know to not get this game. I'm tired of the parry matters so much. Everything's about parrying. Games.ch gave it an 82. Voxel comes in with an 82, saying Beast of Reincarnation had all the makings of a surprise hit for 2026, but it stumbles over its own feet by trying to be bigger than it should be. The game aims for a scale it cannot handle. Consequently, while it offers fun gameplay and an interesting plot, It constantly disappoints with unsatisfactory performance and graphics that take an unwelcome trip back to the previous generation. Yeah, that's an issue. They scoped this out too big, maybe a little too ambitious for what they're doing. And again, we are talking about Game Freak, guys. We are talking about a studio that routinely fucks up games with its graphics, with its resolutions, with its frame rates. And you want them to make this? They just can't figure this out. I don't know why, they just can't figure this out. We have Dual Shockers with an 80, Hey Poor Player with an 80, Stevier with an 80, RPG Site with an 80, IGN Deutschland with an 80 as well. PlayStation Lifestyle comes in with an 80, and here's the review from Gaming Bolt, which gave it an 80, saying Beast of Reincarnation is an understated success for Game Freak, delivering a compelling action adventure with some very solid combat. Even if dialogue, presentation, and camera often leave something to be desired, this is an enjoyable road trip unlike any other. Game Blast also gave it an 80. 80s, I swear 80 is the most common score for almost every game. 78 from Digital Chumps, saying Beast from developer Game Freak is a good first step for what could be a fun action series. The story is great, the characters are interesting, and the action when it gets going is fast, fun, and furious. The blend and repetitive enemies and bosses, as well as confusing skill tree, get in the way of making this game something special. Yeah, sometimes the systems in a game can really tank a game. Also, if the game does sell well, and I do hope it does, I'm thinking the game will be better on a sequel where they can fix some of these issues. I do. I think if they get another crack at it, it's going to be better. Then we have 4P.de with a 75, COG Go Connected with a 75, IGN Italia and Giga with a 75, worth playing with a 75 as well. But we're going to read the 75 here from Press Start Australia, which says, Beast of Reincarnation is a typical action RPG from a not-so-typical developer. It's a confident first step for Game Freak, though at times that confidence can feel misplaced. Repetitive enemies, samey environments, and performance issues stop it from reaching the heights of its own ambition. But when everything clicks, it's hard to deny that Beast of Reincarnation really clicks. It's a fast, fluid, and deeply satisfying combat loop. And that's the end of the positives. And even during the positive reviews, you saw a lot of the same themes here. You saw, the combat seemed mixed. People were like, it's great, it's not great. Story seemed mixed. It's great. It's not great. But what wasn't really mixed is anybody who had a criticism of this, it sounded about right, and it seemed to ring true that the game has massive performance issues, and that is an issue. Now we're in the mixed. We have Console Creatures, Game Reactor UK, GameSpew, and GameSmurf, and Insider Gaming, and Metro Game Central, Loot Level Chill, and the Sixth Axis, RPG Gamer, Atomics, Saudi Gamer, RPG Fan, IGN Spain, all giving it a 70. However, I want to read the 70 from Push Square, where they say Beast of Reincarnation is an interesting action RPG that ties together various elements to present something quite unique. While the narrative isn't particularly enthralling, and it suffers from the same visual and technical issues, the combat is a highlight, focusing on parries and a mix of melee and pseudo-turn-based commands that feels fun to balance. It wears its influences on its sleeve, but there are just enough fresh ideas for a great game here. So, continuing down the rabbit hole, 70, pretty common score here, but now we go to a 65 from Critical Hits, saying Beast of Reincarnation offers satisfying, methodical combat, but its repetitive exploration and performance issues hold it back. If the combat appeals to you, it's worth considering, though waiting for a few patches may be a better option. And yeah, I would probably suggest this if you're somewhat interested in this game. You could wait for a sale, wait for patches, and maybe that would make it a much more valuable buy. I do think they came out at a pretty decent time to come out, because there's not a whole lot going on here in early August. You are kind of wedged between Halo's release and Marvel Tokon, but I think August is proving to be a pretty light month, even though Madden is coming out in a couple weeks. August is certainly lighter than September. This game would have been totally buried in September. So, anyway. Now we're on to 60s. Monster Value gave it a 60. And our favorites, The Guardian and Eurogamer, which we've lambasted before on this channel, gave it 60s. VGC gave it a 60. It's a pretty reputable site as well. Restart.run gave it a 60. Noisy Pixel and Dextero gave it a 60 as well. And I know IGN gave it a 60, but I don't know why that's not listed on here. IGN and GameSpot both gave this game a 6 out of 10. But anyway, we'll read the Dextero review. Beast of Reincarnation blends Sekiro-style parries, clear obscure-inspired action inputs. Interesting. And weighty Souls-like boss fights into a combat system that feels fun and rewarding. It doesn't quite surpass the games that it's inspired, but it carves out an identity that's very much a beast of its own. Now, 60 to me is not a great score, so they could have that. The wording on that's a little bit softer than the actual score they gave. But you got to think it's sort of like this is sort of like Darksiders, but for this kind of game. Darksiders was always accused of, oh man, you're a rip-off Zelda, rip-off God of War, rip-off Gears of War. You're just taking their jack of all trade, master of none. Darksiders was still great though, definitely not a 60. And this game is like, oh, you're clear obscure, or oh, you're a Souls-like, oh, you're well, Beast of Reincarnation is what it is. IGN Benelux gave it a 58. Unfortunately, I can't recommend Beast of Reincarnation. The static story, the empty world, and the graphical issues mostly result in frustration rather than fun. Literally, the only thing that saves this game from a failing grade is the fluid action in combat. And then we have Comic Book with a 50. And also with the lowest score here, Game Rant with a 50. Saying, the world itself may not be particularly interesting, but Beast of Reincarnation's combat and exploration are fun enough that going off the beaten path is a worthwhile endeavor, even after rolling credits. I found myself going back to the game to kill some robots and new swords and explore the areas that I missed in my original playthrough. The core gameplay is solid, even with the control issues. Okay, but a 50's a 50. That's not a good score at all. It's not negative, but it's about as close as you can be to negative on the Metacritic scale. But anyway, guys, what do you think? Are you going to get Beast in Reincarnation anyway, despite what the reviewers say? Let me know in the comments below. But until next time, this is your boy RJ signing out. Have a good one.